the other thing is that, second, I'll say that. Give me my puppy a minute. Indy, you little shit. Sorry. I think just the storm has gotten him, like, he's acting crazy right now.
Welcome to Screens of the Stone Age, the podcast where scientists review movies about prehistoric people. My name's Josh Lindell. I'm a grad student studying Neanderthal teeth, and I'm here with...
I'm Dr. Kimberly Plomp. I am a bioarchaeologist. I study the human skeleton, health and disease, and evolution.
I'm Dr. Ross Barnett, interested in ancient DNA and phylogenetics of cats.
And today we are reviewing, I think for the first time, maybe technically, a musical, definitely for the first time, a play called Firebringer from 2016. How do we feel about musicals?
I generally like musicals, but I'm starting to feel, Josh, that this is becoming a toxic relationship. And I feel like you're punishing us for something that I'm not sure that we did. So if we've done something, you need to communicate it more, please, so we can address it.
This one is actually a listener request, so you can't pin this one on me. You didn't like this one? I hate musicals. I actually didn't mind this. I thought this was pretty funny. The music drags on. Tonally feels to me like I think it's just I'm told because I just don't understand musicals, but it felt like a children's cartoon, like Cocomelon or Baby Shark or something in some of the songs, just like repetitive with no content, mixed with a lot of fucks.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry to the listener who suggested it, but like I would have, if I was in the theater, I would have gotten up and left. Definitely before that too.
Whoa. Well, I'm kind of on the same page as Josh. I don't like musicals generally, but I thought this was quite funny and actually good. Yeah, the music wasn't anything. I can't remember any of the songs, having watched it, but the acting was fun and the script was good. And yeah, it kind of played around with some of the tropes that we've seen from many of the previous films we've watched in quite a playful way.
Maybe I'm just grumpy.
You don't remember the I don't really want to do the work today song?
Okay, apart from that one.
That one apparently went viral back in 2016 when this came out. And it was even like lip synced by the cast of the Book of Mormon on social media.
Okay. Wow.
So that's the claim to fame for this musical. This is if anybody's heard of it, it's probably because they've heard that song.
It was over 2 hours long. That's way too long to sit in a theater. Your butt starts hurting. Like,
easily cut
long.
Down to an hour and a half without losing anything.
Yeah.
I think also, so my sister is an actor and she loves the stage. And so through my whole life, we've always gone to the theater and we've always gone to see high school plays and her friends' plays and plays she wanted to see. And all these things. Like I had to do that Macbeth thing in New York where you go into like a warehouse and you have to follow the cast around. Speak no more. She loved it. I did not get it. I did not enjoy it. And I think my tolerance for sitting through boring, shitty plays that are too long, I just have none of it left anymore.
That's fair enough.
But I love a good one. Love a good musical, love a good play.
Well, this one has 7.8 out of 10 on IMDb, which is among the top of the things we've reviewed, I think.
Yeah. And I enjoyed it. I didn't even put it on to 1.5 times on YouTube.
I did and skipped songs.
Yeah, I had to watch it in 2 sessions though, because it was very, very long. But I
did as well, yeah.
I didn't feel bored or that I wanted to speed it up. I quite enjoyed the kind of comedy of it.
Shit, there was too long.
So who wants to summarize this one?
Ross is going to have to because I skipped most of it. It's just, if I was going to summarize it, I'd be like, there's some people who made some drama, who said swear words, like, who swore as jokes, but then that was the only joke, was just the input of an inappropriate swear word.
Okay, it didn't win over Kim, but I went in skeptical and was sort of fairly won over. Okay, I'll do the kind of. I didn't take very many notes because a lot of it's sung, and when people sing things, I just can't follow. And not that many of the songs move the plot along. Anyway, so it is sort of filmed in a theater, which is quite interesting. So it's quite professionally done. I think there's not a lot of stage props, but the ones that there are pretty cool. And we meet the sort of narrator, who is Molag, who is the kind of wise woman of the tribe. She has some quite good banter with the audience right from the start, which carries on throughout, where she contrasts her life as a wise woman in a Stone Age tribe with the privileged fucks that are in the audience, which I find quite amusing. And it's a story about how humanity discovered fire, which was good for us, bad for everything else, which is pretty succinct and accurate as far as I would consider it. And so we meet kind of gradually, one by one, different members of Molag's tribe. We meet Jamila, who is the initial leader of the tribe. We meet Chorn, who can only say Chorn, but who engages in the great debate with other members of the tribe, which is just what Chorn actually means. They worship a duck at the beginning, which is quite interesting. The great duck, which created the universe and everything in it, and its quacks are interpreted by Ducker, who is like the kind of priest of the tribe. There's you discover that they're all named after their attributes. So there's Zazalil, is she the kind of troublemaker? Jamila, the peacemaker. There's also Smelly Balls, who is a male character, and they have a kind of very much a kind of peaceful gatherer's way of life. They collect nuts. They're kind of vegan essentially, and this is all very nice. But Molag, who is the kind of knowledge repository of the group, is leaving. She wants to go and find the edge of the world, or find out how far the turtle goes. Again, that's another one of our kind of tropes about Stone Age people thinking they lived on the back of a turtle. And she has a few kind of truths to impart to Jamila, who she wants to be the leader of the tribe while Molag is away. And some of those truths are pretty harsh. So one of them is that Molag invented the duck god. The ducks actually hate them, their tribe most of all, because they keep abducting ducks, and that's not cool. They have to compete with squirrels to get the nuts. They're not very good at them. Good at it. The team of Zazalil and Kiri are the kind of chief nut gatherers, and they have to compete with the squirrels. But this gives Zazalil the idea that maybe they could eat the squirrels, which she doesn't quite figure out how to do it yet. There's some songs about Carrie dreams of a future where no one knows anything and is lazy. I'm struggling to read my own notes here. While they're collecting nuts rocks, they discover that rocks can kill squirrels. And so now they're essentially in the Stone Age. So they've discovered that they can use rocks as weapons to kill squirrels, to kill other things, eat stuff that's not just nuts. We meet another member of the tribe, Shroopsy, who is the stand-up comedian who tells the joke. I couldn't understand which part of the joke was actually meant to be the joke. But anyway.
Not a good sign. That's not a good sign.
No.
But that's the joke.
Yeah,
the joke is it's the first joke ever, so it's not very good.
Okay.
Emberly, who is the sort of chief berry taster, her job is to make sure that the things that they're going to eat aren't poisonous. So she goes out and collects and kind of licks stuff to make sure it's okay. She meets Grunt, who is an outsider from outside their tribe, and he teaches her how to spit stuff out, which you'd think that maybe would have been part of her job plan originally, or else they'd be going through berry tasters pretty quickly. Anyway, so Grunt's been kicked out of his tribe again. That's another tick on the trope list. And then we cut to the tribe being all together, and Jamila tries to explain the truths that Molag has passed on to her, especially about the duck and how it's not for real. There's also a tribe member called Tiblin who has her hands in the air holding up the sky and has to be convinced that she can put her hands down and everything will be okay. So, yeah, Ducker has to take his duck hat off, which has a duck in it, and the duck leaves. I really like the puppet animation for that as well. I thought that was really good. And then, after all these truths have been dropped, Zazalil invents the spear by putting the pointy rock on end of a bit of stick. So now they're kind of disillusioned. They've had all their kind of security ripped away from them from the worship of the duck and holding up the sky and being special. And so Zazalil kind of comes in at the right moment and says, right, let's try hunting mammoths. They're the spirit of the river, but we could try and kill them and eat them. And there's quite a funny bit where, they're trying to say, well, the mammoths are the spirit of the river. They're sacred. And then they see a mammoth called Trunkle, who actually killed Zazalil's father. And Kiri goes, "Ooh, I hate him," which I did find quite amusing. And Truncula attacks, so they have to run up a tree to escape. And this is all kind of the trouble resulting from Zazalil inventing spears. So Jamila forbids spears. Spears are verboten, they're forbidden, they're banned, which is her kind of laying down the law as the chief of the tribe. Molag comes back to narrate a bit more. She talks about Snarl. She says that, it's quite funnily, she says that, oh yeah, he's a dinosaur. And then, no, he's not. Dinosaurs are all dead. Which was actually a neat bit of playing around with the tropes of a lot of the caveman films that we've seen. So Snarl is actually a saber-tooth cat. And Zazalil goes out at night, which is the time when Snarl is active, to try and kill him. But while she's out doing that, going out with the spear, lightning hits the spear, and now we have some flames. Now we have a fire. And Snarl appears, but he's afraid of the fire. So now they've got this really cool tool. And Zazalil takes it back to the tribe, and they talk about it. Chorn says her first known Chorn word and calls it fire. So she's seen fire before. Jamila leaves the tribe because she's not happy that kind of Zazalil didn't listen to her banning of spears. Ducker, who very quickly has switched his allegiances from duck to fire, says that he can interpret the fire, and it says that he needs to sleep in the dry part of the cave, which I find very amusing as well. But now they realize that with this new fire, they don't have to be afraid of Snarl, and they can see at night. They can live outside of the cave. They could find somewhere else to spend their time, and they could maybe burn enough things to change the climate completely, which is great. Kiri gets a new job as official mammoth killer, but then later on we find that some time has passed, and Kiri can't find any mammoths because they killed them all. And so Zazalil suggests that maybe they should try burning giant sloths. But Kiri says, no, but they've got friendly human faces and they give you hugs. So yeah. We cut to Jamila, so she's kind of been banished from the tribe again, another trope, although she sort of left of her own free will. But she meets another outsider who kind of makes a big impression on her. We cut back to Emberly and Grunt, and we discover that Grunt, the outsider from a different tribe, has invented painting. And the first thing he paints is a hand turkey, which I'm assuming is a North American thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't do hand turkeys on Thanksgiving?
No, weirdly, we don't do that. Because your Thanksgiving is to say thanks for us leaving you alone, pretty much. So Grunt has invented painting, He can paint turkeys. That's what he's best at. But he also does his father and his mother, and and a self-portrait where he gives himself a penis that reaches the moon. Because if you're going to invent painting, you don't have to be economical with the truth. Anyway, so we see sort of a relationship develop between Emberly and Grunt. Emberly wants Grunt to paint her. Titanic style, and but Grunt's a bit jealous of Emberly because she's actually a better painter than he is, because he can't do feet. That's his thing. He's not very good at doing feet. So their relationship's developing. Ducker, we kind of circle back to him. He claims to hear the voice of the fire. He's still trying to kind of weasel his way into being the kind of shaman of the group. But while they're kind of discussing this, the fire goes out. And so now they don't have any fire because they've got it from the lightning, but they don't know how to make it spontaneously, and their fire has gone out. And of course, at this point, Snarl reappears, and he takes Grunt back to his cave. And so this is terrible. Emberly and Grunt have a lot of feelings for each other. None of the other tribe really particularly care, but they decide that they should maybe go and try and rescue him. And Emberly has the idea that maybe she could paint a picture of fire, and that would be good enough to scare Snarl. At the same time, Zazalil has gone off, and she's found another tribe which has taken Jamila in, and Jamila has become leader of this other tribe. They live in a kind of peaceful, cooperative, polyamorous society, which Jamila feels quite happy in. So she has many husbands and wives. And we discover that this other tribe are Neanderthals, which is great. They're all about peace and love. But Zazalil manages to convince Jamila to come back with her to help rescue Grunt and get rid of Snarl. So they hunt back to Snarl's cave. They find that Grunt is still alive, but he's had his arm and his feet chewed off by Snarl. And Jamila and Zazala decide to use the spears to try and kill Snarl. But this doesn't really work. They kind of miss when they're throwing the spears at Snarl. But Zazalil notices that a spark is created when the rock hits the side of the cave. And so she has this great idea that maybe they can make their own fire, which they do. And this scares off Snarl, and that's great. They've now invented a tinderbox, essentially. They've invented how to make fire for themselves. And then we get the kind of big final number where it's revealed that Chorn actually came from the sky. She's a kind of ancient alien type who taught them all how to live and was testing them. She wanted them to see if they could live with balance, responsibility, and truth with this new invention called fire. Chorn gives Grunt a new arm and gives them all the gift of knowledge, but he doesn't get his feet back because Chorn also can't do feet. And then at the end, I think Zazalil and Jamila get married. They kind of propose to each other. That was one of the conditions of Jamila kind of leaving the Neanderthals and coming back to her original tribe, was that she would get to marry Zazalil. And then Molag comes back at the end and decides that the world is a circle, and so there was no end. And so they're going to have to kind of live together and use the knowledge they've got to make it the world a better place.
I did not see the ancient aliens ex machina coming at the end. Did you?
No. I thought Chorn was going to be a Neanderthal because she had that big eyebrows. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it really added anything to the play at all, really. I mean, they don't do anything with it.
Most of the play didn't add anything to the play.
Yeah.
Ooh, harsh.
It's so fun.
Well, if you read the reviews online, if most of the criticisms have to do with the end, and it feels kind of rushed, and I agree. But let me find where was this written here? I think it's on the webpage tvtropes.org, which has it's a good source for all of our bingo hits that we can discuss in a minute. But apparently the writers initially thought that the audience would see this ancient aliens twist coming so obviously that it was more subtle in like the original script, which is not the one we saw on YouTube. And apparently, like, I didn't see it coming either, even though I guess in 2016, Ancient Aliens would have been big enough in the zeitgeist that, you know, the writers just assumed people would see that twist coming. So midway through its run, they actually rewrote it to give Chorn a bigger info dump at the end to explain what was actually happening. And that's the version that we watched on YouTube.
Okay.
So I guess the writers expected people would expect this ending, and then in the end, nobody actually did. Even in this rewrite, I guess it is foreshadowed a bit, because the only thing Chorn says other than Chorn up until the ending is fire. So like you said, it seems like Chorn already knows what fire is when nobody else had ever seen it before.
Which I thought was her sign of being a Neanderthal, that the Neanderthals already had fire, and that's the tribe that she came from. But
that might have been a better twist.
Yeah.
Except that I do like the subversion of the typical trope that Neanderthals are stupid and ugly, when in this one the Neanderthals are like notoriously beautiful and utopian, which I don't know. It's a little throwaway thing, but I really like that in this one. Of course, the other thing about this play is that it's like a 75% female cast. All the lead roles are females. The society is matriarchal, it seems, and also just generally polyamorous. And it's not like even a point. It's just like taken for granted that that's the way it is, which is one of the positives of this when most people discuss it online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm very kind of pan. There's not strict sexual identities either. It's just taken for granted as well, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Considering how much right-wing nut jobs like to hark back to cast iron gender roles and heteronormativity and things like that.
Kay, do we want to start by checking off our caveman movie bingo card?
Yeah, let's do it. I can feel a full house coming on, even if they subvert them.
Right off the top, we have in the title of the play, the invention of fire, or the discovery of fire. That's a big one.
Invention of art, we've got in there as well.
Invention of stone tools.
Yeah.
A lot of the movies we watch have all of the inventions lumped into like one person or one group, right?
Yeah. We have antagonistic wild animals that just want to spend a lot of energy hunting things and not eating them.
We have out-of-place animals, which we can discuss in a bit. In a bit.
Got notes on that.
We have banished from the tribe. That's a big trope we always run into.
Big one. Acceptance by another tribe. That's there as well.
We got cannibalism.
Yeah.
It's hinted at. It's a running joke that they used to eat babies, but they don't anymore. I thought that one was really funny.
But then they used to eat babies, and then they went vegan, I guess, and then to meat.
Yeah.
Maybe they went vegan because they thought that eating babies was so distasteful.
Well, it's kind of implied that they never learned how to eat any animals other than babies. So they only ate meat because babies were so easy to kill, I guess.
Delicious.
Yeah. We've got Ancient Aliens.
Yeah,
Ancient Aliens is a trope of it. It's a bingo card of its own, bingo chip of its own.
We don't have any dinosaurs, which is interesting.
I was surprised by that, to be honest.
Yeah, we have the specific subversion of that, because she suggests there's going to be a dinosaur, but then it's a saber-toothed cat instead.
Yeah.
Because the clothes are kind of Flintstone style, right? Especially that one girl's dress. So I kind of thought that they'd bring in a little bit of that, even as a joke, right? Like a making fun of that, the trope.
Yeah, it's very Betty and Wilma style clothing with the kind of stone necklaces and ragged dresses kind of thing.
Yeah.
We have somebody wandering for no reason, long distance.
Yep.
Molag kind of trying to find the end of the world, just wandering.
Romance between...
Yeah, romance between outsider and
the group
members of the tribe.
Twice, we have that playing out twice.
There wasn't an active jerk, though, right? Like the leaders all had like
The ducker's a jerk.
positive.
I would say Smelly Balls is a bit of a jerk as well.
But they're not like the
Smelly
abusive
Balls has
jerks
growth.
that we used to see, right? Like, it's not like centered on one man who's an abusive jerk, and then that's the relationship that we usually see.
Yeah, they're quite egalitarian relationships, it feels.
And a lot of the ones, the abusive jerk is like the hero, like the protagonist. And in this one, anybody who's a jerk is a minor character.
Yeah.
There were a few parts that I liked, not enough to warrant 2 hours and 14 minutes, but
we're winning you
one that I did like. No, you're not. Is when Ducker had to take off his crown, and instead of going into like the religious thing, like, no, it's blasphemous or anything, he's like, but it's a symbol of my privilege. I like that.
Yeah.
Like, so he didn't care about the loss of religion or the deity, right? But he cared about the loss of his the symbolism for
his
him.
dry spot and privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole character is just lampooning organized religion in general, because like right when it's revealed, like he's clearly the religious shaman, and then like when it's revealed that they're arbitrarily worshipping a duck, right from that point, you know that this is going to be a jab at religion all the way through. My last bingo hit is humans are bastards. That's pretty much every, or modern humans are bastards. Pretty much every caveman movie we watch has that theme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a full house. Right, well, should we discuss some of the inaccuracies?
You want to start with the out-of-place animals?
Yes.
There's only 3 actual animal props, but they mention a lot of animals.
They do. So, for a start, we have to assume that this is set in Eurasia because they have Neanderthals. The problem there is that, one, Snarl is very clearly dirk-toothed saber-tooth. So he's a Smilodontine saber-tooth, which were never in Eurasia at the same time as Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. They're only
very
overlap.
Clearly. Ross, how can you tell me very clearly this cartoon furry prop of a saber-toothed cat that is only a head and 2 paws is clearly a Smilodon?
Well, I mean, this is my specialty, isn't it? So this is what 20 years of academia has done to me. So I mean, it has very long teeth that extend below the jawline. It doesn't have a kind of scabbard for them on the lower jaw. And that's only Smilodon that has that. So pretty clear. I mean, it's definitely much bigger than the real Smilodon, but it has the attributes of Smilodon. So that was a big issue. That kind of really ruined my enjoyment of this musical set in the Stone Age with aliens.
On Wikipedia, they also call it Smilodon. So
yeah,
it's intentional.
Smelly Balls has a raccoon hat right from the start, and raccoons are purely an American species. So that's again another misplacement. Turkeys. Pictures of turkeys. Yeah. Turkeys, again, America's only. Coyotes, they talk about, again, America only.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's a problem. Mammoths are fine. You get mammoths all over Eurasia and the Americas. And I think any more mentions of animals? Squirrels. I mean, do you guys have things that you call squirrels? Squirrels is very much a name that's applied to lots of different things.
Yeah, we have squirrels.
Yeah, we've got squirrels.
And chipmunk. Do you guys have chipmunks?
Yeah, you've got gray squirrels, don't you? You've got filthy gray squirrels.
We have gray squirrels and red squirrels here.
Yeah.
And then I think in Ontario, they've got some sort of really dark black squirrels that look really weird.
You've got red squirrels. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
They get leprosy.
Yeah, I got a red squirrels that live right here in my yard. I have a feeder right outside my window.
And are they...
where I watch them.
Are they the same species as the reds that we have here, or are they just convergent?
I think they're the same species.
I'm just looking it up just now.
They're about half the size of the gray squirrels.
They're a different genus and different species from the Eurasian one. So the American red squirrel is Tamiascurus hudsonicus, and the Eurasian red squirrel is Scurus vulgaris. So they look not huge, not very similar. I mean, red squirrels are cute and have pointy ear tufts, whereas American red squirrels look like they would stab you.
What?
They're pretty hardcore. I haven't seen my squirrel in a while, but we've had a squirrel that lives in our backyard, and a while back it had some sort of serious injury where it was paralyzed from the waist down.
Whoa.
Aw, baby.
And we were watching it. We were trying to catch it to take it into a rescue place, but we, of course, couldn't. But it was so hardcore. It was managing with just its front legs. It was dragging its back legs across the ground. It was climbing trees just by its front legs, like monkey bars.
Wow.
It would climb the tree and then swing by its hands into the feeder. And then it would just sort of lie in the feeder and stuff itself for a while.
Wow.
And there was a second red squirrel that kept coming around trying to harass it to get into its feeder, and it was chasing the other squirrel away from its territory just by running on its front legs.
Jeez.
Eventually, it got a little bit of use of its back legs back, but I haven't seen either of them in a little while, so I hope it's okay.
That squirrel
Poor
must have been
baby.
jacked. I mean, imagine hauling yourself around just by your front arms. Wow.
Yeah, lucky it happened in the spring, so hopefully it's doing all right. But I'm also making friends with a flock of crows in my front yard this week.
That's handy.
And I think maybe they've scared away the squirrels for a bit.
Yeah, it's always good to be a friend of crows.
I want to go back to this dissing of the American red squirrel. It is adorable. It looks very similar to the European red squirrel. I think ours
They don't have the tufty ears, though. Those tufty ears that you see in the photos of the European ones.
I don't think it needs it. I think it's adorable as is.
I agree.
I would say that
love
it's
squirrels.
cuter.
The European red squirrel is red. I think the American red squirrel is a dirty brown.
Oh, I have a picture of a red one right here.
Well, they're like an orangey brown. Yeah. Much nicer than the gray squirrels.
Oh yeah,
I think the gray squirrels are ugly.
Gray squirrels.
I do not hate gray squirrels. They're cute too.
Okay, everyone except Kim hates gray squirrels.
Gray squirrels are adorable. They're the ones that eat out of your hands in the park.
Yeah, and give you chlamydia, probably.
What? Leprosy, maybe.
They're filthy and diseased. They're horrible.
They are not. This is rodent propaganda. Or anti-propaganda, or whatever it is.
Did we mention that they talk about a giant sloth as well, which is also an American animal?
Yeah. But I give them points for saying how cute they would be, which I fully agree with, that they would have had cute faces and would have given you hugs.
You?
Yeah, maybe only once, but you probably would have been able to get a hug from a giant sloth.
The duck they worship must be like a mallard because it has a green head. That's like a full northern hemisphere animal, isn't it?
Yeah, mallards everywhere. But lots of ducks look, especially female ducks, they all look the same. There's just not a lot of variety in female duck plumage.
The human cast is 75% female, but the animal cast maybe not, because Snarl is a male. The duck obviously is a male because it has a green head. What about Trunkel? Is Trunkel a male or a female?
Hard to tell. There's not, without being able to see multiples of them. I think it'd be hard to tell what sex Trunkel was.
In the Wikipedia write-up, they say he.
Yeah, do they gender it when they're talking about it? Do they call it a he in the play?
I don't know.
Interesting. What other inaccuracies do we want to talk about?
Well, the invention of the spear. So the idea that they didn't have any stone tools before this? Is that the idea? So they didn't have any stone tools. They didn't survive on anything except for nuts that they gathered. I don't know if if they're saying that this is Homo sapiens or if this just tribe in particular is really incompetent. But obviously they would have a stone tool kit.
Yeah, if they don't have any stone tools, then why is everyone so shaved?
Yeah, that's true. With cute haircuts.
Of course, it's kind of silly to criticize the accuracy of this because it is a little bit stupid in general. Like, it's a silly play.
They weren't trying to be accurate,
and also because, it's also supposed to be a parable, for lots of things, like for climate change and stuff like that. So, of course, they just take all of the things and cram them into one group of people. But we're still gonna continue criticizing it anyway, because that's the whole point of the podcast.
Yeah. They've got lots of fur for a tribe that doesn't hunt animals. Where did they get that from?
Yeah, we can talk about like the internal inconsistencies. Also, we have Molag, the what do they call her? The warrior, something like that. The previous leader of the tribe was supposed to be a warrior, and the tribe was supposed to be violent. And then when Jamila became the leader, she became the peacemaker, and the tribe became peaceful. But you know, they were a warring tribe, and yet they had never invented weapons before that point. You know.
Yeah, they just use harsh language.
I guess they just beat each other to death with their fists. I guess the way chimpanzees do when they go to war.
There's the other thing, too, where people, because they say that she invented fire. She might have invented a torch, but she didn't invent fire. But this is what I feel I get with students quite often, is the idea that humans invented fire or discovered fire. It's just the wrong type of wording, when really what they did was everybody would have known about fire. There would be fire, like forest fires, natural fires, all this. So it was just that humans found a way of, and a reason to control fire, right? And so that's changed in anthropology books, and we say control fire now, but I still find students using the incorrect term of inventing or discovering fire, right? And that's what in this play, they kind of, it's a comedy, so it's fine, but the idea that they've never seen fire before. But I guess in a tribe that doesn't use any stone tools, doesn't eat meat, she didn't know how to spit something out. I think maybe this was just a very unique group of people.
Yeah.
Like the next tribe over is already in the Neolithic and like farming and stuff.
We can talk about the timeline of all these inventions, right? Like the invention of tools, the discovery of fire, the invention of painting, the invention of religion, or I guess religion's not an invention, but like the emergence of religion, I guess is how we should probably talk about it. When did all these things actually happen?
We have no idea.
The oldest stone tools are like 3 million years, which are older than humans, older than the genus Homo.
Yes. We don't know who started making them. Probably an Australopithecine. But it could have started with Homo habilis, right? So there's more than one potential maker on the scene at the time that they're found. And all that could change as soon as we find another tool that's older. I think the oldest evidence of fire, controlled fire use, is 700,000 years in China, I think. So that's Homo erectus.
Sounds right to me.
And then for religion, the earliest that we have would be, I think, Neanderthals, if you accept the idea of these intentional burials, with the idea of if there's an intentional burial, then there's a ritual, which gives the idea of ritualistic beliefs, religion. Although there is that suggestion by Lieberger that Homo naledi also had a ritualistic burial, intentional burials.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Have any of us read that literature? Do we have a way to criticize that? I haven't dug into it really.
It's a nice idea, but they just don't have the evidence for it. Like, I think it's still, we don't have the evidence to say that it isn't, but you don't have the evidence to say that it is, to make the big announcement that he did in a peer review paper, or slipping it through peer review, putting it in the documentary. So I think that's the main thing. It's not that he's suggesting it, but that he kind of made it a big deal without having the proper support for the idea.
We don't talk about Homo naledi very much on this podcast, I think. So,
No.
And a lot of people still don't know about Homo naledi because it's a pretty new discovery, but it's a really different species of humans from South Africa that existed like around 230,000 years ago, I think, which overlaps with modern humans, but they are like much smaller, much more primitive looking biologically. But the whole thing about them is they found them really deep in this cave where there's no other evidence of any other animals, and there's like a whole bunch of individuals there. So the argument is that they were burying their dead by dragging them really deep into this cave. the new paper must have more evidence than just the fact that they were in the cave, because they had that evidence way back in 2015 and it was hinted at, but there was like a more recent paper that said specifically that this is an intentional burial. So they must have new evidence as part of that, but I never read the paper yet.
I don't think that it's convincing. It's not enough for the claim is really what it is. It wouldn't have made it through a stringent peer review. But it feels like it's the same thing as sending up the fossils up with space and stuff. So, it feels like Lee Berger's starting to just get a little bit hungry for the media attention and starting to forget his main focus or goals. But the interesting thing about Homo naledi too is that when they found it based on its morphology, they thought it was going to be 2 to 3 million years old based on its brain size and such, although it has a very modern foot, very human-like foot. So that's what kind of threw everybody in a tizzy, was that it was so young with such ancestral morphology. And then what was the other thing you said? Painting. So what's the oldest painting? That was with modern humans, right? So I should know this.
Well, I was just looking this up. I think, according to Wikipedia, the oldest painting we have was in Europe from 65,000 years ago, which would make it Neanderthals, in Spain in particular. So modern humans don't get to Spain until 30,000 or 35,000 or something like that, I think.
Isn't there some older suggested ones in Africa, though? Maybe they're not
cave paintings
fully accepted. Yeah,
I think so. Like in Blombos Cave, there's supposed to be some art there.
There's portable art there, but I don't think there's cave painting. So, I mean, art versus painting, those are two different things,
True.
right? The earliest interpretations of art are going to be probably parallel striations on bones, which are more tenuous. Blombos also has shell beads, though, if you consider jewelry to be a form of art.
I think so.
The earliest painting is going to be, at least according to Wikipedia, these 65,000-year-old paintings in Spain by Neanderthals, but the earliest art is going to be much more open to interpretation.
I think jewelry is art.
Yeah. There's also paintings that are like 45 to 50,000 in Borneo. There's some kind of quite early painting out there as well.
There's some early stuff in Australia as well. What about sculptures? Sculptures is art. And what's the oldest musical instrument again? Because that's art as well. It's just if you loosen, take it away just as a painting.
Well, there's the Neanderthal, the quote-unquote Neanderthal flute from Divya Baba in Slovenia, which you can hear people arguing really strongly either way. And I'm not convinced that one is a flute. But I think that there is some evidence for stones, which would have been sort of hit like a drum with some sort of mallet that have a particular acoustic qualities that are interpreted as musical instruments. I don't know much about those. Do either of you?
No. Lithophones and those kind of things. Then I guess if they're just stone, they'd be hard to date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say
I'll have to look into that and I'll add it to the show notes.
The first indications of art is about 60,000 years ago with Neanderthals.
Of painting.
Yeah, and if you accept the flute.
The flute is not that old, though. The flute is, it's not as old as the painting, I think. It's 40 or 50,000, I think.
Oh, I don't know. I just Googled it. It says 60,000.
Oh, okay. Then it's about the same age.
Yeah. But who knows if it could be AI crap. You don't know anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, are you getting those AI summaries in your Google searches yet?
I don't know how to tell.
I don't think Yeah, how would we know?
There's a great Twitter account called Googenough, which has been compiling screenshots of bad AI summaries from Google. It's very funny.
And then what was the other thing? So we did art, fire, religion. What was the other thing you said?
And stone tools. I think we covered them all. Well, we have the first stone tools, but what are the first hafted spear points? Because that's a whole different question.
That's Neanderthals, right?
I think it would be pre-Neanderthals because, or early Neanderthals because, I actually don't know. We have spears, preserved spears, but I think that they're just fire hardened and pointed without stone points, as far as I know.
The first stone points is humans, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a typical Mousterian point, which is associated with Neanderthals, but I don't actually know if those are meant to be spear points or if that's just a stone tool with a pointed end that was used unhafted.
I'm pretty sure we've even said, like, we've critiqued movies in this podcast where Neanderthals, we said it was good that they were using only, like, fire-hardened spears because we pointed that out as an accuracy. So... So do we trust our past selves?
No.
I don't know.
Those guys don't know what they're talking about.
Material for listeners who are paying close attention, who can send us a mistake that we've made, and I'll send you a free t-shirt. Still ongoing. I've only handed out a couple because we don't have a lot of listeners, so it's a pretty easy way to get yourself a free t-shirt if you're listening closely.
I'm pretty sure it's modern humans were the first one to attach the stone, the point to the stick. I think that.
Okay.
I thought that I've heard evidence of Neanderthals distilling pitch for glue, though. Does that ring a bell for any of you?
But what were they putting? They could be gluing feathers to themselves. Like, what was the glue for?
So, I've just done a Google. I mean, this is what our education level has led us to. Apparently, the earliest known examples of hafted knives were made by affixing lumps of plant resin directly onto an unmodified flake. These tools from the Campitello site in Italy were made by Neanderthals at about 200,000 BP.
Mm-hmm.
So that's earliest kind of hafted hybrid weapons.
Oh yeah, I got a picture here with a stone flake that still has this birch tar adhering to it. Looks. Yeah. If I found that, I'd think, oh, that was intentionally applied to that surface.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's even suggestions that Homo heidelbergensis may have used hafted tools as well.
And also may have had intentional burial or at least intentional disposal of the bodies within a particular area with Cima de los Sueces, right? There's some suggestion that they were placed there. So that could put religion even earlier than Neanderthals.
Cima de los Huesos is a site in Spain. It means pit of bones, and it's a pit inside a cave that's full of human skeletons and other animals. And so again, the argument is that people were throwing their dead into this pit, which you could interpret as a form of ritual burial, or also just people were throwing dead bodies there so that they didn't attract scavengers.
And it doesn't fit, so they've done analyses and it doesn't seem to fit what you would expect to be there if it was carnivores bringing in dead bodies, like bringing in their food. But it could fit water and stuff bringing them in, but it's hard to say.
This is probably too esoteric for this popular culture podcast, but the concept of Homo heidelbergensis is really in question right now. There's my advisor is part of a movement reassessing Homo heidelbergensis, and it's really problematic because the way that we identify species is based on a type specimen. If you name a species, the first specimen that you name as that species is the one that you have to compare it to. And the type specimen for Homo heidelbergensis, which was named over 100 years ago, is a jawbone from Germany. And in the field of paleoanthropology, it's kind of widely agreed right now that jawbone is super weird and nothing else really looks like it. And so Homo heidelbergensis, since the 1980s, they revived it as a taxon that we use. It's been what we call a wastebasket taxon, where if it doesn't fit into modern humans or Neanderthals, which are later humans, and it also doesn't fit into Homo erectus, which is an earlier one, but if it's somewhere in the middle, we tend to throw it into Homo heidelbergensis. And my advisor hosted a workshop about a year ago where she invited the top paleoanthropologists in the world to specifically discuss, this question and other questions that are related to it. And I got to be there because I'm her student, but I had no business being there. But it was really interesting to see the consensus in the field of the kind of people who were there were like John Hawkes, Leslie Aiello, Jeff Schwartz, Maria Martinon Torres, like the top names. Maybe I don't know if our listeners know these people. the consensus among these people was that Mauer is weird, the Mauer mandible, which is what Homo heidelbergensis is named after, and that we should limit Homo heidelbergensis to that jawbone and maybe a couple of other specimens. I think Soprano or Arago. I can't remember which ones. I'm not great on my middle Pleistocene taxonomy right now. But otherwise, to not use Homo heidelbergensis because nothing else really looks like this Mauer mandible, and it's just it's muddying the waters to lump everything in with it when we can't be sure what they are.
Have they published that yet?
Oh, there's tons of papers on this. There was
No, I know that there's papers on that, but have they published that suggestion yet? That particular one?
There's a special issue, which I don't know if it's out yet or not, coming out of this conference. But there was a brief thing that was published just mentioning the conference. And that was one of the things that was outlined in that brief report. So I'll link that one in the show notes, and I can send it to you later, where it's just a minor suggestion that's part of it.
I'm just about to submit a paper, so I just want to make sure that I have the correct
sure
thing.
Maybe we lost all of our listeners on this episode with going too deep into the literature at this point.
Into Heidelberg.
But there's just nothing else to talk about with the play. Like, you can't really fault them for anything because they were just trying to be funny and they were making social comments.
I'm sort of intrigued that some of them haven't gone on to bigger things. Like, I did check some of their IMDb profiles, and I was impressed enough by the acting and singing that I thought maybe they would have become more Hollywood, but it doesn't seem that any of them have.
Well, we should say that this was produced by, what do you call it? A troupe? What do you call a...
It was a Kickstarter. They were,
Yeah.
They crowdsourced it.
Yeah, it was crowdsourced by a group called Star Kid Productions. And it seems like as a group, they've continued to do that for like 20 years. I think they started from University of Michigan or something like that, which is where this was initially put on.
Right.
And when you search for this play online, you get lots of like fans discussing it. And I also felt like in the play there was a lot of self-referencing, like to its own, like a lot of inside jokes that I didn't get.
Yeah.
They're like referencing people by name within the play who I don't know who they are. Mm-hmm. The main Neanderthal's name was Clark what's his name? Clark Backstresser, and the Neanderthal character's name in the play is Clark, and in the credits, it says Clark Backstresser as himself, and I don't know why the actor is playing as himself as a Neanderthal. So it must be some sort of inside joke. So it seems like maybe they haven't gone on to other things because they're successful enough as a group and like just want to continue working as this play production company, like internally.
Yeah.
I mean, good for them. If they've made a career out of doing plays like this, good for them. That's very hard to do. Sorry, I'm trying to speak through a cat at the moment. Probably going to be muffled in the recording.
One of the other plays that they've done is called The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals, which YouTube is incessantly recommending to me after this one. So I'm not turned on to musicals enough to have tried that one yet, but... they're aware of this idea that...
yeah.
Well, have we run through everything that we have to say about this play then?
I think so.
Yeah, I can't possibly see, unless we want to argue the taxonomy of Heidelbergensis more. I can't.
Sure, I'll send you the papers.
I can just Google them if they're out there.
In all of our publications, we're calling Cima de los Huesos early Neanderthals at this point, which we had to fight with the reviewers on one of our papers a few years ago, but they let us call them early Neanderthals eventually.
I have one Heidelbergensis in my data set. I don't care what it's called. It's just for the shape of its cranium, right?
What is it? Which one?
Oh, I don't even remember. It's an African one, I think.
Mariana's going to love it if you call that homobodoensis.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think Mark will let me do it. And co-authors are Todd Ray and Laura Buck too. So they're kind of in charge of like the naming of that. You can delete this from the podcast. But it's just been...
whatever.
So like I have like... It really doesn't matter what it's called for my study. But, you know, you're listing out all the samples and you're like, in Homo heidelbergensis. And then in brackets, we are aware that this, you know, designation does not fit, blah, 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 blah. But what else are we going to call it? We have this head dated to this time. Yeah.
The best answer right now is to call it archaic homo, which is also a bad word because archaic just means old, so it implies that it's the oldest, but archaic is the... But that's the best way is to use a non-committal terminology if you don't want to have to give it a species name, which I think is the best option. But like, there's no good option right now. You can call it middle Pleistocene Homo, except now you have to call it Chibanian Homo because they changed the name of the middle Pleistocene to the Chibanian, but nobody knows what the Chibanian means yet. So if you call it if you just call it Chibanian Homo, then you have to put in parentheses middle Pleistocene so that people, you know, will finally catch on that the middle Pleistocene has been renamed to the Chibanian.
But like,
what's wrong with the middle Pleistocene?
Easy to put on a figure legend and easy to say in the results, like without all of this hoo-ha, right?
The geology, you know, Ross, you had a beef with geology in the last episode. But the field of geology, whoever's in charge of naming the geological periods, has renamed the Middle Pleistocene to the Chibanian a few years ago. And so in all of our papers, we've been slowly shifting over from referring to the Middle Pleistocene as the Chibanian instead. It's named after a sequence, a stratigraphic sequence from Chiba, Japan, which is where the name Chibanian comes from. So the Middle Pleistocene now is specifically named after this reference sequence from Chiba, Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Chiba would be a really good, cute name for a dog.
And they've changed what? They've changed the early Pleistocene as well, and not told anyone. Bloody geologists.
I think so.
Gelasian and Calabrian.
Are you looking it up?
Yeah.
And so but the later Pleistocene, late Pleistocene is still late Pleistocene. So I guess that's got to be in the pipes. Eventually, we're going to have to replace late Pleistocene as well.
Right. I'm going to have words with my geologist friends and tell them how disappointed I am.
Well, we could take back Pleistocene and just say that we're using it as a
they can't stop us.
Reference, right?
Pleistocene still exists. It's the subdivisions within the Pleistocene. So the Pleistocene is still the larger period, but now there's 4 subdivisions within the Pleistocene, which are, what do you say, Ross?
Gelasian, Calabrian, Chibanian, and late.
Yeah. So I imagine that they're going to rename the late eventually.
Yeah, that's when we march.
Gonna have to learn how to spell all these stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, geologists are not winning themselves any friends with this.
So, in the end, would you recommend this musical to anybody?
No,
I would recommend it if I had any kind of theatre-loving friends. They might enjoy it.
You have. There's so many better things you could do with 2 hours and 14 minutes. You could put on your own musical. Maybe I should just
recommend it to my theatre-loving enemies then.
I would recommend this as well because I thought it was funny. Yeah. Some of the jokes aren't that well executed, but I was won over immediately when Moleg is narrating at the beginning and calls the audience privileged fucks.
Yeah, me too.
Then that's a running joke where she keeps calling the audience privileged fucks all the way through. I'm like, okay, this could be good.
Yeah.
The music drags on at some points. A lot of the songs just feel like they're not contributing anything meaningful to the story, which, as far as I know from what people who like musicals have told me, the point isn't for the music to have any interesting content. It's for people to enjoy music, which I want to enjoy my music as music and my shows as shows. And
never the twain shall meet.
Yeah, but overall, I thought this was funny.
But all the really popular musicals, their songs all had something to do with the storyline. They explain things. They push things along, right? It doesn't just take you out of the storyline.
Yeah, well, my only kind of knowledge of this is that, so Stephen Fry, he wrote the musical, which one? Me and My Girl, I think it was, that's what made him a millionaire before he was 25. And the way he did it, he describes in one of his autobiographies, is that he just took a whole bunch of the great songs of the 1920s or whatever, the kind of popular ones, and then built the story around that so that there's kind of continuity and that the songs themselves kind of push the story along. So yeah, that's how you should do it. But I mean, yeah, I didn't like the songs. They just felt very musical theatery. I mean, just that sort of style of singing and enunciating, it just doesn't do anything for me at all.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be so bitchy, but to me, it came off as theater geeks in university doing a final project, and they all had to have their big moments, and they all had to have a certain amount of songs and lines, and so things were written in just for the sake of that, and that there was very little attention paid to like making it entertaining or interesting. And it was just, it's the type of people that if you went for after drinks with them, it would just be insufferable. But maybe I'm just
of milk
grumpy.
for Manila.
I'm very stressed right now in my life, so maybe I'm just taking it out on these poor
Yeah, just tell us how you really feel, Kim.
theater majors. I think they're probably just getting the brunt of everything.
What's going to happen when your sister listens to this and feels all this like unresolved aggression?
My sister
coming
would
out?
not. My sister would not like that play, so it's fine. I've enjoyed all of her plays. She's very good.
Yes.
I'm sure that what you say is entirely true, but I also think that if I had to go out for drinks after watching any of our movies with any of the actors in the movies, I would probably feel the same way. So
Except
I'm not going to
Encino
judge
Man. That
this
would be
play on the
freaking
basis
fun. Encino Man would have been
that would be
awesome.
fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so not any. I'm
And
sure
Jurassic
that there
Park.
are some actors that have
Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
I'd have a beer with Sam Neill for sure.
Oh my God. I could go home with either Sam Neill or Malcolm. Either.
Yeah, no judgment here. No judgment here.
I think that's it, though. Yeah, you're right. Everybody else would be insufferable.
If you've been enjoying Screens of the Stone Age, get in touch with us. Follow us on Twitter at SOTSA_podcast and on Facebook at SOTSA podcast, or send us an email to screensofthestoneage@gmail.com. Screens of the Stone Age is supported by the Paleoanthropological Society of Canada. Find out more at pasc-scpa.ca.